Okay, so welcome everyone tonight. I think we have some guests. I know Tara, you're in the horse club. I invited our statewide horse club to join tonight as well because if y'all have ever been around horses, they're pretty expensive. And so that's another club that I'm leading. And so welcome to everyone. If this is your first time or your third time to our Life Ready meeting, we're really glad you guys are taking the initiative to be here tonight. And I think this activity that we're doing will be well worth your time. So we're doing an activity that is and it'll span our whole meeting for tonight, because normally when we do it in person, it's something that usually takes at least 2 hours, but can really take a whole day or multiple days depending on how involved we want it to be. And usually we do it in schools or something like that too. So we thought it'd be good just to focus on that tonight. We don't have a guest speaker. It's just Mary Lee and I introducing the activity, and then you guys doing it, and us kind of being here in the background. So to kind of help you if needed, and then coming back together after a little bit and talking about what you learned. So I'm curious, how many of you guys have had to go grocery shopping on your own before? Catherine, Ava? Okay, anybody else? Remember, we want this to be interactive. You've only been with your mom since you can't drive. That makes sense. Okay, anybody else? Have you guys been grocery shopping on your own before? Okay. So I know the first time I went grocery shopping on my own was when I went to college, which was really strange. But it's just, you don't realize how much you do with your parents until you're kind of by yourself. And so that's just one example of kind of the things that we're going to go over tonight, and you guys get to kind of practice. And what I'm trying to get at is that what you're going to do is, Mary Lee's done a great job at setting up this website where you are going to get basically a life that you have with how much money you make and how many kids you have. And a lot of it's based off of the answers of the careers that you guys said in your survey that you wanted, and their actual how much that you would make in that career. And then you have to go through all the booths and choose what you're going to select. So once you turn 18 and you either move out of the house and get a job, or you go off to college, you're going to realize really quick, like, wow. And I bet Mary Lee can attest to this too, like, wow, electricity costs how much, and food costs how much, and gas costs how much, and insurance is this, and those are things that you got to pay on a weekly and monthly basis. And so kind of the point of tonight is to have you guys walk through this simulation, understanding, and kind of getting a grasp on what are some of the real life prices for these things. And hopefully some light bulbs will go off, of like learning how to prioritize and what's important to you. And maybe I want to go into a different career to make a little bit more money. Or if you wanted to have 5 kids before this, I know one of the things we hear a lot of times is and you're assigned your kids randomly, so you may have no children or you may have 5 based on the random calculator, but you'll understand how much childcare costs. And so just kind of getting a grasp on those things. And like I said, you guys are ahead of the ball game, even just being here tonight and working on this. But I think it'll really help you propel you into your life after high school, just kind of having gone through this simulation. So I think, Mary Lee, am I missing anything, or should I turn over the reins to you?
I think that's a pretty good intro. So yeah, I can go ahead and start getting into some of the nitty-gritty stuff of explaining it, so that you guys can go ahead and get started with it. So like Ms. Amanda said, I put together just kind of one website. So some of you guys might have actually done pretty much this activity in one of your in-person 4-H events in the past, if you've ever done Living on My Own or LOMO. So this is very similar to that. It's almost the same thing. We just kind of made it virtual for our club. So we're calling it Life Ready Challenge, since we're not exactly using the same stuff as LOMO, and it's a little bit different. So basically what's going to happen is, in a minute, I'm going to put a link to the site in the chat box. I don't want you guys to dive in too much yet. So I'm going to explain a little and then I'll send it over to you guys. But basically when you get on there, it'll have the instructions for you, but there's a budget calculator that you'll either need to open it up in another tab and keep both the website and the budget calculator open, or there's a paper version if you want to go ahead and just print it out and then you can handwrite it. We do recommend having some type of either paper and pencil, or even just like a little scrap piece of paper is fine, or if you just want to have just somewhere where you can just write a note to yourself. It can be on the computer, we don't care, this is just for you. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to visit all of the tabs on the website, and it'll have like a tab that might say transportation. And you go to the transportation page and you'll see it's got all these different charts of all your different options. So it'll tell you all these different cars and such that you can get, how much gasoline you use, car insurance, things like that. And so you'll go through and you'll make all of the decisions based on 1 month of salary. So like Miss Amanda said, you guys told us what jobs you were interested in. So I went ahead and used all of those, or at least one job that each person put. So as long as you filled out the survey at the beginning, there should be a job that you like on there. And if there's not, just choose something that you'd be willing to do or something that you're just kind of curious about. And it'll tell you the average starting salary of that job. It's not, some of them are a little bit higher because I was like, okay, well, we're pretending you're 25 in this, so maybe you've got a year or two of experience and things like that. And then, like Miss Amanda said, it'll assign you a random number of kids, and it'll tell you your taxes and all kinds of stuff like that, and your student loan payments. And you're going to take that monthly salary and make choices on every single table on the website. It doesn't matter what order you go in. So if having a pet is the most important thing to you, then go to that miscellaneous tab and choose what pet you want to have. If you're here from the horse club, you can go ahead and ask your parents how much a horse costs, because I guarantee it's more than taking care of a dog or a cat. But you go ahead and you prioritize your stuff and decide what's most important to you and kind of visit those sections first. So you'll basically flip back and forth between the website and either the budget calculator or your printed piece of paper. And you'll just mark down the amounts. And at the end, you'll be able to total up how much you've spent for the month, and we will see just kind of how much it is. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the website in the chat box. So you guys can go ahead and click on that. And the first page you're going to get to is the home page that has the instructions that we just kind of went through. So you can kind of refer back to those. And basically, for the next about 45-ish minutes you guys will have, you can go ahead and flip back and forth between that budget calculator just to keep track of your expenses, and go through the site to make all of your decisions. So that home page is going to have a quick little quiz. It's not a quiz. You'll choose a random letter. That's how you get your kids assigned to you. And then you'll select what job you want, and it'll tell you your life situation. So make note of that. Then you visit all of the, we'll call them booths when we do it in person, but all the tabs at the top of the page. And most of the things that are on that budget calculator are in those tabs at the top of the page. If there's something that's not there, then that means you can just put 0. For example, I figured you guys probably aren't going to have subscriptions to a paper newspaper. Just seems like something that people don't really do as much anymore, so I didn't even include that as an option. So you can just leave 0 for that, or if you do have a subscription to a newspaper, you can put however much that is, that's fine. So if there's something that's not on there, you can just mark it as 0. Some of the booth options will say, this doesn't cost anything, or there's an option that's free. Most of them will have a price associated with it. So basically, Miss Amanda and I are going to chill out in here, If you guys have questions, either now or throughout it, we are here to answer them. But kind of the next, like I said, about 40, 45 minutes-ish or however long it takes you guys have that site. You've got your budget calculator or the printed sheet if you want it. And then when you get done, just kind of hop back into this Zoom room, which you're welcome to stay on Zoom, and just, if you want to have your camera on or off, that's fine. But we'll be in here to answer any questions. And then when you guys are done, we'll go ahead and just talk about it, see what you think, see if there are any surprises, shocking stuff, whatever. So yeah, I think that's about it. So Miss Amanda, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask everyone, did that make sense? I know Mary Lee talked through well, but that's a lot to process as well.
Yeah.
Can I see head nods or something in the chat box that you guys understand? If not, we can share our screen. Okay, thank you, TJ, for the thumbs up. We can share our screen too if that's needed. Becky, thank you and Catherine, thanks for the thumbs up. We're happy if Jordan, thanks for the thumbs up. If something doesn't make sense, we're happy to walk through it as well. So thanks, Aaron.
Miss Amanda Morgan.
Yep.
I have a question. Okay. So I submitted my form, but it doesn't say what I have.
Do you remember what it was?
So I remember I had one child.
Okay. And what job did you pick?
Nurse.
All right. Let's see. Nurse. Okay, so for nurse, the monthly salary is $4,305.
Okay, wait, let me get a pencil to write it down.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
So Natalie's question, are you allowed to make whatever choices you want? So yeah, you can make whatever choices you want. Now there are certain things that will essentially make choices for you. So for example, if you choose a certain house, your electric bill is essentially predetermined because it's going to be the average electricity for that household. If it's something like food, there's options for, you can choose just really thrifty, low cost options, or you can choose like, no, I'm going to eat what I want, when I want, all that type of stuff. So yeah, you can make any of those types of choices that you want. Just make sure you make at least one selection at each booth. So taxes, there is a section in the calculator, I believe it is called, somebody asked where taxes go.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, just a second, Ava. So taxes there's debt and loan payments, and there's an option under there that says tax payments. So that one is a little in a wonky spot, but everything else should be pretty good. Okay, so Ava, a nurse on here, you can also, if you clicked submit, it's actually on the page right before that, but so your monthly salary is $4,305. Your taxes are $707. And your student loan payment is $100.
Okay, so can you do that one more time?
Sure. So monthly salary is $4,305. Your taxes are $707. And then your student loan payment is $100.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So if anyone else has questions or anything, feel free to just ask away, put them in the chat box, whatever. And Miss Amanda and I are just here to help you guys answer any questions, whatever. Do I have to pay for my children's school lunches? Yes. So there's an option on there that if you want to send bag lunches, let's see, let me get to that. So option 2 gives you if you want to send bagged lunches, because that still is going to cost you.
Miss Mary Lee, what time are we going to meet back as a group?
We can't, I'm sorry, I'm throwing off my time. We used to end at 7. If we plan to have discussion at, I would say 7:15, does that sound good? We can go a little bit later too if people need more time.
That sounds good. So we can just check in with everybody at 7:15.
Yep. Okay, Krista says the budget calculator is not letting me do anything. Are you on the monthly expenses or the actual budget calculator? The one is just a PDF document if you want to print it off. The other should have fillable fields. I'll put the link, the direct link to the budget calculator specifically. We just wanted to make sure you guys had options in case. Okay, so on the budget calculator. Let me know if that link in particular works, Krista. You do have to expand the fields. So there's a plus sign at the front of each one. You do have to expand it.
And you guys are the first to test this out. So I say first, you're the second. I tested it out as well whenever Mary Lee made it. But if there's notes along the way that you guys think we can improve something or change something, please write that down and we'll ask you for those at the end.
Yep. Okay, Krista says it's not letting you do anything. Okay, I'm gonna put a link to a Word, like a Google Doc that you guys can make a copy of and fill it in that way as well. It'll be of that PDF. So just give me a minute to do that, and then, yep. So somebody had a question that they sent directly to me on the income part. If you're on the budget calculator, the only section on step 1 where it says your income, the only thing you have to do on there is where it says net monthly pay, and it says your net monthly pay, you put in that monthly amount. So that's going to be that largest amount. You'll ignore the spouse's net monthly pay. We're ignoring spouses for the purpose of the simulation. And then other income, it lists things like Social Security, which you don't have as a 25-year-old, or investments and pensions and things like that. We're only using that net monthly pay section. And I am working on sending you guys that fillable document as well, in case the budget calculator is not working for anyone else.
Is there like
Okay.
a button that you can pick, or do you have to like write it down?
Say that again?
Is it like a button you can pick, or do you have to like write it down?
No. Sorry. Okay. No, yeah, those tables are just images. So you need to that's why I suggested getting kind of a paper and pencil so you can just jot down like, oh, for housing, I chose option 3 or whatever.
Okay.
But then mainly you're just putting the amount into that budget calculator. So I did throw Google Doc in there in case the budget calculator is not working, but I did see it started working for Krista, so that's great. So I got another question. If we are picking the own option versus renting for the housing, do we need to put anything under rent and mortgage? So yes, a mortgage is what you pay if you own your house. So rent is obviously if you're renting a house then or an apartment, you pay your rent. If you own your house, you pay what's called a mortgage. So whatever the amount is for housing goes under rent and mortgage, regardless of which you're choosing. And then there was a question about a second mortgage. So if you want to buy a second house or rent a second house, you can. However, most people don't have that. So that's for people who might have like a vacation home or something like that. So for most of you guys, you'll be putting 0 unless you want to. Jordan, you have $4,822 left over and you went to every single booth?
I think you're on mute, Jordan.
You're gonna have to tell us how you did that one. So because you have to visit every tab at the top of the page and choose an option at every single one. Okay, so Natalie, there isn't an option to leave my children at home without a nanny. That's because it's illegal. So as a 25-year-old, you aren't most likely going to have children who are old enough to leave at home without a nanny. So you do have to have some type of childcare for your kids.
Okay. What about your neighbor? You can pay them for free.
Well, in this simulation, your neighbor is working full time.
Hi, Dad. Great.
I do know it is true that some people do have options to have childcare that does not cost. That's great, but it's also very rare. So most of the time you are going to have to pay for some type of childcare if you are working full time. COVID currently presents a different scenario for some of us. For example, I am currently able to work from home, so I'm not paying for childcare. But if if this were a normal time and I had to go to the office, that's just not an option for most people. So we're just going off of the norm or the standard for most people. Okay, I've got a couple questions. So is the condo or homeowners association fee if you rent only? No, so a condo fee would be if you're renting. A lot of, not every apartment complex will have a condo fee. A lot of them don't. So some of the options on there don't have it, but then a homeowners association fee is if you own your home, some places will have a homeowners association. And what that is, for example, in my neighborhood, we've got dirt roads, and our homeowners association fee goes toward maintaining those roads. So since they're commonly used roads that a lot of people use, we have a homeowners association, and that's what those fees go toward. So some neighborhoods have them, some don't. Like I would assume, Miss Amanda, do you have a homeowners association where you are? No. So Miss Amanda's on a farm and doesn't have an HOA. I'm on a farm and I do have an HOA. But well, yeah. So some neighborhoods will have them where they will dictate how tall your grass can be, or what color your house can be, or whether or not you can have a flag outside your house or something like that. So yeah, they can really vary. But the one that I have here, they don't tell us anything. It's literally they collect, you know, $50 a year or something, and then they maintain the roads, and that's it. But they don't care, you know, what my yard looks like or anything like that. So and then the other question, is it legal to not get health insurance for your children? I don't think so. I think you have to have some form of health insurance. I believe the Affordable Care Act made that a thing. I could be wrong, but I believe you do have to have health insurance for your children. Yeah, I don't think that's an option to not have it.
Okay, I finished mine, and I finished with a total, I have $624 left. And my salary to start with was, hang on, $3,561 a month.
You guys are very conservative, which I'm impressed to see.
There's a question that says, what do I put for spouse's income? You're going to put 0. We're just ignoring spouses for the purpose of this simulation, which for some people is the case. There's, you know, plenty of 25-year-olds out there that do not have a spouse. So we're just putting 0 for the purpose of this. And great job, Catherine. There's a question, what do we put for prescriptions? So there's some, like I said, there's some options on there that I did not put, didn't put a like poster thing for, because some people have lots of prescriptions, some people have no prescriptions. So if you have some that you want to put the cost of, that's fine. Or if you just want to put 0, that's also fine. And then do we have to do everything in the miscellaneous tab, or can we pick and choose? So that's kind of the same answer. So you just need to make sure that you choose everything that is on the site, with all of the options listed, like the option 1, 2, 3, 4, that type of thing. But on the actual budget calculator, there are a lot of extras that we kind of skipped over because they're going to be so variable between people. So if it's not on the actual Life Ready Challenge website, then you don't have to put anything. If you want to put something, then you can, but you don't have to. So yes, somebody asked if they have to pick a hobby. Yeah, if there are options listed for it, then you should pick one. So for example, yeah, hobbies and sports. Everyone's got some type of hobby. So for example, if you like, even if your hobby is something as simple as reading, you have to buy a new book, or you know, even if you're doing audiobooks or something, you know, you have to be able to pay a subscription. If you use the library and it's free, that's awesome, but you still have to be able to get there, and that's going to cost you something. So at the end of the day, every hobby is going to cost you something. Even if your hobby is, say running, where you can go outside and do that, and it technically doesn't cost anything in that sense. I bet Miss Amanda can attest to the fact that running can turn into a very expensive hobby very quickly.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's the health insurance and copay option 2 family plan?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between a family plan and an individual plan?
If you don't have any children, then you can just pay an individual plan for yourself. If you have any children, then you should have a family plan. And a lot of times with health insurance, it's not necessarily per person. So for example, if you've got your job and your job offers you some type of health insurance, you can get it just for yourself, or you can purchase a family plan that will cover your spouse, your kids, your whoever you add to it that's related to you. They don't necessarily charge per person. So typically there's just simply a cost for you as a single person, or a cost for your family, whether that's one person or 10 people. Okay, I have another question on here. The options only include one cat, one dog, or one of both. Can we double it for 2 of 1? Absolutely. So if you want 2 dogs, go ahead. You can double that cost. And then, can we keep doing this after the meeting if we don't finish? Yes. So the website that I sent you guys, it's just a live site. So you are welcome to either keep doing it after this, or you can also keep doing it while we're, doing our discussion at the end. That's fine. Yeah, so that's just a live website that you are welcome to share. And that budget calculator is not something that we created. That is something that, that's just a separate website that I found that just kind of had a lot of the options that people typically spend money on. So for salon and barber visits, what if you have a family member who is a trained professional that can do your and your kids' hair? So that's great. So that means you can probably choose one of the cheaper options, because you do still need to buy stuff like shampoo and conditioner and things like that. And then Mia finished with $617. That's awesome. So what if, that is a question from Miss Amanda to me, but I do not need to read out loud. Okay. So one thing I wanted to point out with these jobs is, like I said, these jobs are based on what you guys picked in your original, gosh, my words tonight, guys, I'm really sorry. Your original survey that we sent out at the very first meeting, you guys picked your jobs and things like that. So we did choose things like that, but I think one of the options on there was like a meteorologist or something. And that takes a lot of school, and that's going to be, if not everyone is necessarily going to be at that level as a 25-year-old. So a lot of times people who are in their 20s are working jobs that they're just doing to earn money so that they can work toward these other goals. So just kind of keep that in mind too, that, those of you guys who are being able to purchase everything, that's super awesome. But that's also with a job that's going to take an awful lot of work to get there. I'm not saying that's not doable, because it certainly is. Natalie is over budget and she blames the children. Kids are expensive. Natalie, if you want to, you can still go back through and look at some of the other options and see if anything if you can cut any costs anywhere. You certainly don't have to, but you can.
Would a Jeep be considered a compact car, or like a Jeep Wrangler, an SUV, truck, or sports car?
I would put
SUV,
it
right?
somewhere either in the, I would say SUV, potentially truck, in that realm of things.
You're gonna spend a lot of gas on it.
Mm-hmm.
Krista's only halfway through and she's over budget. Yes, the kids do have to eat. That is true.
I mean, that's what most Americans deal with too, is, that there's just not enough money to support basic needs even. So it's good that you guys are kind of having a varied experience. It'll be fun to talk about in a few minutes.
Yes, putting down 250,000 could be why you were over budget. That is true. That's how much the insurance will cover you. So if you have $250,000 in medical bills, they will cover you, cover those bills for that $15 a month. And while it might seem crazy to have $250,000 in medical bills, believe me, it's very possible. I had a baby earlier this year and we were looking at over $300,000 because he had to stay in the hospital for a few weeks. So it is definitely possible to get that those medical bills up there. So life insurance and health insurance and stuff is very, very, very important. I had a question about taxes and student loans and where they go in the calculator. That should be under debt and loan payments. The only two things under debt and loan payments that you guys will need to use are, there's a section for student loans and a section for tax payments. So those two things go in there. The other things like credit cards, store cards, medical debt, stuff like that, if you know that you already have those things or anticipate having those things, you can certainly fill in those. Otherwise, you can leave them as zero. Credit cards are a great tool to use, but they can also be dangerous. So we try to encourage you guys to use them for things that you know you can pay off in that same month, rather than racking up a bunch of debt and having those monthly payments each month.
So if I calculate everything without paying taxes or my student loans, I'd have $667.
That's how much you've left over?
Nope, not yet. If I didn't pay taxes, yes.
Ah. Real life's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, I got a question about the life insurance portion, so I'm going to go to that really quick and help try to explain that. So life insurance, I know there's not a ton of explanation on there. So basically what life insurance is if something happens to you and you pass away, whoever your beneficiary is, which is a person that you designate, typically it's your spouse or your next living relative. So that might be your children or a sibling or your parents. They would get the amount of money listed on the policy. So for example, option number 2 costs you $25 a month and it's a $500,000 policy. So that means if you were to pass away and you paid $25 a month for option 2, your next living relative would get $500,000. And typically that helps go toward, it might be funeral expenses, it might be making a house payment or, paying off a house or something like that. So life insurance is to kind of help the family get through the death of that loved one. So that hopefully that kind of explains briefly what life insurance is. And then the next question, is it bad if we don't pick the 4th option? No, it is not bad because it is a more expensive option. So $65 a month might just be too much for some people, and you might only be able to afford the $15 a month option. So that's, that's not a bad thing at all. That's just kind of the choices that, we have to make because that's how much things cost.
So I see lots of people putting thoughts in the chat box. Do you guys mind sharing them or talking through them and kind of how it went for you and where you think you went wrong, or if there's no changes you could make and that's just how it is? Can you guys share your thoughts? Now, Krista, you say you're not having kids. They're expensive. Yeah. Do you want to tell us any more? What about bad credit or whatever that's called? Yep. So Mary Lee, did you factor in credit with this one or no?
I did not, but yes, credit can absolutely affect a lot of these things. Housing for sure, they definitely do a credit check for housing. And so you might have loved the, option 8 where you got to purchase the really nice house. But even though you make a certain amount, if your credit is bad, you're not going to be able to get that house. So yeah, credit makes a huge difference in all of these, just for the sake of trying to make this as streamlined as possible. It did not factor that in. But yeah, if you've got bad credit and don't pay your bills on time, which is how you get bad credit, you're not going to be able to get a lot of the options, even if you can technically afford them, because basically that's, a level or a measurement of your trustworthiness when it comes to paying bills. So just because you make, X amount of dollars per month, you still have to put in the effort to pay your bills on time, because they don't know, you might, just because you can afford to get that fancy house, if you choose to get, 3 fancy cars and buy those instead of paying for your house, that's not good either.
And at the end of the day, credit is really just how trustworthy you are with someone loaning you money and then you paying it back. At the end of the day, that's all that credit is. So, you know, a lot of it too, because you guys are so young, is that you have to build credit history. And so there's lots of factors that go into, you know, what your credit score number is. And the higher it is, it's the better. But you know, it is how many years that you've had credits. So that's why, you know, if you're able to, like when you turn 18, if you're able to get a small credit card, and, you know, let's say, like, I had friends who were really smart that whenever they turned 18, they got a credit card, and that's what they used every week to fill up their car. And then they went home and literally paid it off. Because usually it's monthly payments that you need to make sure you stick to. They were able to build credit, and by the time we were out of college, they were able to have really large credit cards that they were financially responsible and able to pay off because they had the skills. But your credit score is something that you have to earn. It's not like you know, you turn 18 and you get a score of 800 right away. It's something that you really have to build over time, and that even just one mistake can really set it back. And, you know, Mary Lee talked about the price difference. It's really huge. So if you're like going to buy a vehicle, you know, someone with really good credit may get the same vehicle, may get a payment of $500 monthly. But then if you don't have as good as credit, it may be $800. And that's a very normal price range for, I'd say, a nice car if you're paying monthly payments on it. But just because of your credit score, you're paying $300 more because they're not super sure or trustworthy that you're able to pay that back. Does that make sense? And it's the same thing with your house too. So it's just about how trustworthy you are with your money.
And then Krista, you wanted to speak up, I believe.
Yeah, because I just wanted to ask you guys about if you guys were going to like try to insert that maybe next time. Because I know some people when I went to teen retreat, which was like a sleepaway camp for a weekend, they put us through a similar simulation, and some of the people I knew had bad credit, and they had like 5 kids, and they were married, but their spouse was a couch potato, so he had bad credit too.
Yeah, so
So.
in our when we normally do this in person, this is the first time we've done it virtually. It is a part of that, and I think just trying to make it as little as complicated as possible. We didn't include that, but maybe we can look at it next time, because it is a really important factor on how much, you know, really monthly expenses cost. So you ended up you said being over your budget. So another thing to think about that, I don't, Mary Lee, correct me, but I went through and I didn't see it, that normally we include whenever we do this is kind of a rainy day situation. So you have to stop by a booth where you get a random thing that you're assigned, and maybe it's that you own a house and your hot water heater went out or your AC went out. So, you know, a lot of it too is people will spend just as much as they make, which I know a lot of you guys are really close to doing that. And, you know, the thing is then that leaves you no room for extras if you need to get new tires or your car needs something to be worked on, something that's out of the norm. And Mary Lee and I can tell you that happens quite a bit, and it usually always happens at the worst time. So, you know, it might happen around the holidays whenever money is tight. It may happen when you're on a trip or something like that. And so that's where I saw a lot of you guys had spent, you know, 1,000. One of you guys had spent had a few thousand left, you know, to 500 left that you had not spent. And that's not a bad thing. It's great if you can just then move that money into a savings account where you don't miss it. And it just kind of sits there. I know that's, you know, what we do, or my husband's really good at doing, is whenever we have extra money, it just goes away into our savings account before we have the opportunity to spend it on something. And then whenever we have to, you know, or one of our dogs has a vet bill or something like that, it's not an emergent. We don't have to put that on our credit card. We can just go ahead and pay for it, and it's not as stressful as it could be. If that makes sense too.
There's also a lot of times when we want to spend money on on good things, but things that are more expensive. So like, for example, right now, I would really love to put up a fence at my house so that I can have, a good sized horse pasture. But building fence for a good sized horse pasture is definitely, it's in the thousands. So, it's looking like we're going to be spending close to $2,000 on fence. And that's not money that I have every month. I don't have an extra $2,000 every single month that I can just, oh, let me go buy a fence. That's something that, we've got to save up for. So having that, extra, say $200 a month that you might save up, it's going to take 10 months for you to be able to save up for that fence. And it's not a bad thing to spend money from your savings when you're actually saving for something. So you definitely want to make sure that, that extra money that you have each month, that doesn't mean that you go out and say, oh, I've got, 500 extra dollars to spend this month. You still want to stay within your budget. And, but that's why some of these options, like going out to eat, I think there was one that said, I'm going to just go out to eat whenever I want. If that's something that's really important to you, then great, budget for that. And that's totally fine. Just make sure that you're able to afford your other things too. So having that extra money is definitely a good thing, but also you want to hold on to it. And I also wanted to kind of reiterate too that you guys chose jobs that were, that were really great careers that are making a good amount of money. Most 25-year-olds aren't making the type of money that we gave you guys in the simulation. So typically when we would do this, it would be a randomized career, or I would say a randomized job, because for a lot of people it would just be, maybe just a temporary job that they're doing while they're in college or just out of college or something like that. Like maybe working at a coffee shop or something where for some people they do make that their career, and that's awesome because they want to do that and they budget for it and things like that. But for a lot of people, they're making more like between $1,000 and $2,000 a month, not the $4,000 a month that some of you guys were making in this simulation. But I kind of wanted you guys to see what you could be doing in your career and looking at the careers that you guys are interested in. And it's great that some of you guys were able to to buy all of the things you wanted and still have money left over. That's awesome. Some of you guys were still really tight, and that's also good to know. Just to think about in the future, like how can you afford the lifestyle you want to have with the career that you want to have as well. So I want to hear from you guys. What are some other comments and thoughts and things that you guys have?
Natalie, you had some really funny comments. Would you mind sharing? Or Catherine or Jordan?
So Jordan said instead of paying for simple car expenses like an oil change, he could do it himself. Yeah, that's true. That would be a good way to save on some things like that. Remember too, though, that time is also something that is worth something. So sometimes when I've done the simulation in person, there has been a supplemental income booth or area where it gives you the option to go get a second job, which is great on paper because you get more money. And then it's funny because kids will come up and they'll get the second job and they get an extra $300 a month. And then it's like, okay, now you owe me $100 more because now you have to pay for more childcare. And all of a sudden that extra money that they got from their second job isn't really worth as much because they're paying for that extra childcare. Now, something as simple as changing your oil, that's not, that's not going to be taking up a ton of your time, but just keep that in mind. If you are going through all of these expenses and taking on all of this stuff, that you're not necessarily leaving yourself time for all of the other things you might want to do. So who else has some thoughts or comments?
Erin, you had a really good comment too. Do you mind sharing that out loud?
I think Erin's saying that if you start saving now, you won't have as much of a burden later. Which, yeah, that's definitely a great idea. We'd love if you guys, started saving now. How many of you guys have jobs currently?
I'd say a paid artist would count. That's pretty cool. Anything where you're bringing in income, I'd consider a job.
Yeah. Okay, a savings account with money in it for college. So yeah, that's a fairly common thing that some kids have is, savings accounts as kids, when you're not, most of you guys aren't paying a lot of bills, if any, or have a lot of expenses, and you've got money for college. It's important to make sure that you're actually using that money for true expenses in college and not just kind of blowing it on all the fun stuff. Because there's going to be a lot of times when you're invited to go out to eat or go to a movie with your friends or whatever, and you're free and can do whatever you want. And, not to say that you should never do those things, but it's important to, make sure you have those priorities so that when you're done with college, that you still have a little bit to get by. Because I know, like for me, when I graduated college, there was a couple months where I was lucky enough that I was able to get a job pretty quickly out of college, but there was still those couple months when I didn't have a job, and I was moving to my job. So, moving costs money, and when you rent a house or rent an apartment, you have to put down payments down and stuff like that. So it's still really important to leave college with a little bit of a savings account too.
I'm really impressed with what you guys are putting in the chat box as well. Like Catherine, I know you're talking about you have a lot of stuff going for you, but then you have a hand-me-down car, which is great. I don't think there's any problem with that. I just up until recently, I had a car that I'd had since I was 17. And I had 360,000 plus miles on it. So I think if you take care of stuff, it can go a long way. But for a long time, I never had a car payment, and that was great. And then, having bank accounts that are growing, you guys are really ahead of the curve, I'd say, than your peers from what Mary Lee and I have observed from schools. And kind of, I hope that there's light bulbs going off for you guys that, if you have a lot of extra money, that you're like, wow, I still didn't realize that those things cost that much money. And I know, was it Krista or Catherine? One of you guys were saying you volunteer as an artist, and that's great. But any type of skills that you guys can pick up, that's just a great example of, maybe you could do some commission stuff, during the holidays to kind of give yourself a little bit of income, down the road or something like that. So I have a poll for you guys, and I'm curious if you guys don't mind filling out. It's just 2 simple questions. Let me see if I can get it. Nope. Whoops. Wrong button. So it's, did you learn how to spend your money better because of this challenge? And do you feel as though this challenge prepared you better for life after high school? So if you guys don't mind answering that. I think we have just a couple more people that need to vote. Okay, I'm going to share the results. Okay, so can you guys see that? Krista, are you able to see the results? Yes. Okay, awesome. So it looks like about half of you guys said that you learned how to better spend your money. The people that said no, what do you think? How do you think we could make this simulation better to where you can learn more how to manage your money?
Or even if you said yes, how can we make it better? Because like we said, you guys are the first ones doing this virtually. We definitely want to make it useful.
I think it's great as it is. Yeah, give an option for spouse. We gotta pay for them too.
That could be a good or a bad thing.
Also, doesn't it happen like what if like I think you guys should give an option for spouse and have you guys pick like the spouse's career and like have them roll for like whichever career, like roll the dice on whichever career that they get, like choose a letter and it automatically gives them, and then how much they make too, because if you're married, it's an added income.
Yeah, and unless your spouse doesn't spend money well, that's where it can be a double-edged sword, and you really got to make sure that's a big part whenever you do find the partner you want to have, that they kind of have the same priorities as you. So that's good feedback. Thank you for that, Ava. And
So
that cold as well. Go ahead. Someone was speaking. I didn't mean to talk over you.
no, I'm sorry. I was just saying how cold it is outside. I'm sitting outside in like a small little sweatshirt. Like story time, but like I went to my first 4-H camp in like the panhandle of Florida, and it was like 30 something degrees, and the only sweater I brought was like a thin little sweater, and these campers, they accidentally locked me out of my room and I couldn't find anyone with a key, and I'm wearing short shorts and like a tiny little sweatshirt and I'm freezing. Yeah, I had to sleep out there and it was so cold.
That's not very nice. No, I don't like being cold. So, and that's where too.
Oh,
Go ahead.
also, I have an seconded story time, I guess.
Okay.
4-H day at the Capitol last like January, I think it was. They told us it was gonna be cold, so they're like, they told us to dress in something warm, but it also had to be black pants, 4-H top, etc., but you could bring a sweatshirt. The only pair of black pants I had were these thin layered like cotton pants, like these high-waisted cotton pants. And I wore the collared shirt, the white collared shirt, etc. And then I brought my sweatshirt. It got so cold, it almost started, I think it started sleeting while we were inside. And yeah, that was a mistake because walking out onto the wet bus was a mistake. It was terrible.
And everyone usually dresses and looks nice for that event too. So it's no fun to walk around in the rain in heels and with makeup and your hair nicely done. But it's one thing I'm thankful. Winter clothes, good winter clothes cost a lot of money. So it's
Yeah.
good to live in Florida.
When is 4-H Day at the Capitol this year?
That's a great question. And as a 4-H agent, I should know, but I don't.
I hope it's not virtual. I really want to go this year.
Yeah.
March 25th.
March 25th? Okay. So when you go, do you have to like get on? I know you have to get on a bus at like 2 a.m, but when you go, do you like have to wear on the bus what you're gonna wear to the Capitol?
Mary
I
Lee,
can answer that one. That one is a no.
Okay. So you get off the bus and you can change and get ready.
Yes.
Okay,
In
good.
my experience, yes.
Because I'm not gonna get in 2 a.m and get dressed and ready, hair all done and makeup at 2 a.m. That is a no for me. You will see me in a sweatshirt and leggings.
y'all are funny. Okay, so we're gonna redirect the conversation back to the challenge. So what are some takeaways that you guys think that this prepared you better for life after high school?
It made me realize that $4,000 is not enough for the lifestyle I want to live.
So that gives you a really good basis to then, start looking at, a few months ago, I emphasized looking at the career that you wanted and how much that salary on average is. And you also have to factor that you're not getting all of that. There's a thing called income tax. And so it's a large percentage of like let's say you make 55,000. Well, in actuality, you're probably going to make close to 50 or less than that thousand by the time you actually get it comes to you because it takes off so much. And same thing with benefits. So that's a good thing to keep in mind because that's still 4,000, still a lot more money than most people make in a month. So what are some other observations?
That I also saw that like it's depending on like because you have to feed your kid. You can't just leave it. It made me realize even more that I do not want kids.
Yeah, you can't let them starve. So they're from what I hear, they're expensive little children. So
Yeah, it makes me more grateful to my mom. I'm gonna go thank her.
yeah. And that's just one thing. Think about, activities, clothes, the different things that you guys have that are not necessities, that are more comforts. So I know, Erin, you thought that $1,000 a month sounded like a lot of money. I know I did too, whenever I left home, and then things really start ticking off once you have to pay your bills.
I'm trying to save up for a car, and I was like pointing at all these expensive cars, and I'm like, look, mommy, can you get me this? And she's like, no, you paying for it. And then I realized I need to get a cheap car.
Yep. Well, and it's insurance that you have on it and gas and maintenance. So it's a lot that adds up to it. And, you may need to spend more money on a car, but then it may get better gas mileage at the end of the day or something like that, which will end up saving you money. Krista, I like your idea too of where we have you guys add it up or times it by 12 to see what it would be at the end of the month. And that's a great idea. We can do that next time too. So if you guys do have extra money, or even if you are in the hole, it would be interesting to multiply that by 12, the number of months in a year, and see kind of what your yearly average would be. Especially you guys that are in the hole too, like, man, $25 a month may not sound like a lot, but you add it up and it becomes a lot of money quick.
Did anyone have to go back and change an option that then changed some of your other things? Like, for example, if you changed which house or apartment you got, and then you had to go back and change like your electric and all that type of stuff? Natalie says yes. So that's something, and Olivia too. Yeah, so that's something to think about too. Is, you know, you might think, okay, I can afford this much, you know, monthly house payment, and you know, you look at whatever the maximum amount that you can afford is, and that's all fine and good. And yes, you can technically get away with that, but then you have to consider, okay, what else is going to be more expensive with the more house I get? So if you max yourself out on like, this is, I can just barely squeeze by with this house payment, you know, are you also going to have a higher electric bill? That's something you have to think about as well. Is that, you know, just because you can technically afford that car, can you afford the gas that comes along with having that sports car, because it uses up more gas? Or, you know, a pickup truck that uses a lot more gas than say a compact car. So those are definitely things to think about too. It's not just, can I afford this singular item? It's what other costs come along with that item.
Jordan brought up a good question too of will solar panels reduce his electricity bill? And I know we've thought about getting solar panels, so I feel like I can speak to that a little bit. Solar panels are a great example of, yes, you would end up eventually saving money on your monthly bill. And maybe even, you know, if you have an output, or if your solar panels create more electricity than what you're using, the electricity company will actually pay you for that too. So that's a plus. But here's the kicker, is that they're really expensive to install, and that a lot of them take a lot of maintenance as well. So that's a great example of, yes, how you may save money in the long term, but it may take you, you know, upwards of 10 years to cover that initial investment. Does that make sense, Jordan?
I also wanted to talk to the fact you guys are mentioning the spouses and the whole spouse situation, which, you know, yes, we fully recognize that it's for some people is a little unrealistic to not include a spouse in the simulation. But it's not just a second income. You're not just getting a second income with that. There's a lot of the expenses that would also increase. So just kind of going through this briefly. So with housing, if you got, let's say you've got 3 kids and you chose, or, you know, let's say you had 2 kids and you chose a 2-bedroom house, you might need an extra room because maybe your spouse needs an office or something like that. If you're in, your electric bill is going to go up. Your water and sewer is going to go up. Your phone and internet and data and stuff like that is going to go up. Your clothing is going to go up. Your hobbies and sports is going to go up. Your travel and recreation is going to go up. Your pet care might go up if they want to have a separate, you know, an additional pet. Holidays and birthdays, that's another birthday that you're buying for. They might have student loans. Your spouse might have more student loans than you do. So, you know, definitely spouses, while yes, can bring in a second income, they are also going to be bringing in a lot more expenses. So it just, for the purpose of the simulation, it just brings in a whole different factor, but that's also just something to think about too in real life, is it's not just as pretty and nice as on paper a second income.
And I think that's where too, you know, you guys, you know, as you're kind of thinking about who you're dating in the future, and, you know, who you might want to spend the rest of your life with as you get older, is to really pay attention to what those people spend money on before you ever are legally attached to them, because it really makes a huge difference. And so that's a really good thing to have a conversation with your friends. And, you know, everyone has different priorities too, and if you're not on the same page, that makes it really difficult. And I know some spouses will have their bank accounts together and others will have them separate. So there's lots of different ways too to, manage your money and manage your money together in a healthy way. But just really, now you can start picking up on cues on which of your friends spend money well and which don't. Do they take care of the things that they have? Are they picking out the most expensive clothes and shoes every time they go shopping? Are they making reasonable, moderate choices in what they're buying, food wise and apartment wise and car wise? If they graduate and get their first job and then go buy a new car, uh, how uh, how financially healthy is that? you know so just kind of some things to think about, and definitely the kids too. I don't think a lot of people think about how much money it's going to cost before they get into it. And I'm expecting my first child here in a couple of months, and I know it's going to be a huge adjustment to our monthly finances, paying for childcare. And that's something that we've talked about for a long time, and kind of prepared for it. But I couldn't imagine spending close to $1,000 every month without not having prepared for that. So just kind of some things to bounce around. Yes, I'll show pictures when the baby's born. But just all these things you guys are thinking about are things that are far off in the future. But the fact that you're thinking about them now is really, really quite incredible, and hopefully will help you guys once you are ready to kind of live on your own. And Jolie says, like, her mom hasn't paid for child. Like, it's a lot of families have a mom that stays at home. I know that's what one of my parents did. Um, but then you have to factor in, like Miss Mary Lee was saying, like, okay, then you're supporting two people with one person bringing in the income. So what are some final thoughts from you guys tonight? Was this a good thing to do? Are you all glad you spent the time tonight? Seeing lots of yeses. Catherine, yeah, that both your parents work full time. Um, and that you guys have hobbies. You don't really realize how much your parents help you out until you really realize what they're going through. So I can identify with that for sure. You guys feel a little bit more grown up? Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. You guys are definitely chatters in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you. Miss Mary Lee and I feel like we talk a lot during this, but we really enjoy like hearing y'all's thoughts and what you think about things too. So I think, Miss Mary Lee, is that kind of all that we have for the night, or is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think we are good. So next time, which will be in the new year, man, we will have a speaker for you guys, and we'll work on getting somebody that fits into what you guys requested. So we'll make sure to get somebody that covers a lot of those. But yeah, I think we are good for tonight.
And dress or no dress, you guys are whatever makes you happy. So it is Christmas time. Can you guys believe we're almost to Christmas now? So 24 days. So I think we're finished with the meeting for tonight. If any of you guys want to stick around and have any more questions to ask or anything like that, Miss Mary Lee and I will be on here for a few minutes. But otherwise, does anyone have a birthday for the month? I see Jordan asking. Any December birthdays? Jolie does. Happy birthday, Jolie.
Happy birthday, Krista, as well.
Woo. Happy birthday.
And Jordan.
Man. Okay, well, we hope you guys have a happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in 2021.
Bye. See you in 2021.
Bye,
See you
Ava.
after this terrifying year is over.
Bye, Catherine.
Bye.
Bye, Olivia. Happy holidays to you too, Tara. Natalie or Autumn or David, do you guys have any questions? David, what's your question? I'm lost in the chat. Okay, I see it. You have a question about extra projects. I signed up for the Teen Ready program. Where do I get the course materials information? Have you attended the other meetings, David? Autumn, I see your comment too. Happy holidays. Yes, think about children. I hear they're worth it, but you may want to factor that into your budget. No, you haven't, David, you haven't gotten to any of the meetings? Do you want me to share with you the recordings from the other meetings? Okay. So maybe David, would it be helpful if I shared the other two meeting recordings with you? These are extra projects. Explain a little bit more. Are you asking if there are extra projects? For computer technology. So are you wanting us to get a computer technology speaker? Money management, personal well-being. Yeah, so each meeting we usually have this meeting was a little bit different, but normally we have a guest speaker talking on one of those things, or like last month we talked about money management. Yep, so they were all kind of things that we're going to hit on all throughout the year. So we'll find a way to share the links from the other meetings with you to cover those. And then also, the Zoom link you use tonight will be the one you can use for all of our meetings for the rest of the year. And we're going to try to cover all the topics that you guys, all the big topics that you guys put in the survey that you wanted to talk about and that we listed there.
So this kind of last meeting and this one, we're sort of focused on the, the money management stuff. That first meeting was just sort of getting to know you guys. So the next ones will start to cover some of those other things. So we'll take that, like Miss Amanda said, that survey stuff, and the ones that we kind of advertised in the original registration and stuff is more of, here's what we can talk about and stuff, but we want to make sure we're covering what you guys are interested in. So we're definitely, Miss Amanda and I are going to meet and get our game plan for the next couple. And yep.
Okay. Does that answer it, David? Okay, good deal. Hope you have a happy holiday. What you think, Mary Lee?